Yo, what's crazy? It's me, Ren, and welcome to my channel. And yes, basically this time here, ISFJ. Yeah, I mean ISFJ is my best compatible. Yeah, it's just for my personality, and basically that's why I'm happy for it. And somehow, yet my wife is ISFJ. Yay! Yeah, it is very good news for me, to be honest. Yeah, just a fun fact for you to know. Yeah, even until like my commitment ceremony, I still don't know what MBTI my wife is. I just have a feeling, yeah, it's she. Yeah. So that's the very interesting part for the ISFJ in a sense. Yeah. So I want to talk about who are them. Then at the same time, like trying to tell you like all about the functions. Yeah, that's my original plan for the MBTI. But a lot of MBTI, I just found out that okay, I'm lack of like a lot of like knowledge or wisdom for it. So yeah, basically ISFJ. Yeah. So ISFJ. When you try to know about like a ISFJ, usually they are like the best person that is trying to care among the group. I mean, especially when you are in a small group of people, and usually ISFJ is the caregiver, and usually like why they are caregiver because like they have a very strong like morality and they hold inside of them. It's different from ESFJ or ENFJ, that type of people, because like for them they have a FI critic that they are always working onto it. FI, which means is like a introverted feeling. So you care about your morality, but you don't have access onto it. So you don't choose like what is your self value put onto, but you just somehow knows that okay, if I want to gain my self value, I need to do onto some performance or whatever thingy that I will just keep my morality works. Yeah, that's basically the most basic idea for the ISFJ. So that's why like in the society that brings a lot of like stability, and a lot of people like trying to talk about moral as well. Like you just see like the society right now. There's a lot of like a moral like a I mean moral guilt trip itself. Yeah, because of the moral guilt trips, and a lot of people thought that there's like a immoral, but somehow at the same time it shows that it's a society of moral. Like if moral really is not it's not something for you to care about, nobody will just even take it out as a weapon. But yeah, because of moral itself right now, up until right now, moral still holds a very important space, especially in our society. So yeah, that's why. And basically, when we come to the ISFJ, even though they are much more introverted, and we say that they are J, but I already explained on the ISFP. So if they are being told that they are the I, and then they end with J. So usually, actually, they are much more like a P instead of like a J. So whereas the P of the ISFJ is their first function, which is the SI, the introverted sensing. So introverted sensing right here is like trying to letting you know like, oh, okay. So what I want, what I like, what I feeling right now. Why I use feeling, because it's that the judgment is come from the feeling itself. So yeah, it is more stronger sense onto the feeling, and because it's everything like you can hear the word I feel, and I. So it's somehow like a very strong onto the experience. And because it's so strong onto experience, so when you're trying to imitate some experience, you try to make it out again. You try to copy and paste and trying to reach that state of that level of energy that you experienced in the past. That okay, basically is coming from your judgment function, is the FE or TI, and basically you don't have the TE to support you, so you are trying to search from the FE, that your experience from the FE judgment itself. Everybody is happy and everything, and ISFJ usually will just start to keep with a routine, and in the right now society, a lot of people try to call it as a discipline, and that's how like the ISFJ, yeah, being told and how they keep the world, like keep on like making it just run. Yeah, if we don't have the ISFJ and ISTJ type of people like in our world, so basically for us to keep on like having all this like things, I mean the whole society to running onto, basically it will be collapse. Yeah, and somehow for some INTJ, they will just believe, yeah, like the world having a hierarchy, and ISFJ and ISTJ is supposed to be the most base because they have the most popularity. I would say yes and no somehow in a sense, because it is too easy like to just say that okay, somebody will be at the base, but at the same time you need to know that we have the octagram as well, like which we call like the UDSD, yeah, this kind of thingy. And yeah, because of that, and it makes actually it's much more complex in a sense. So it's not always you being ISFJ or ISTJ, then you'll just directly go to the bottom. There are some ISTJ, they work really well and they have a very successful business, but somehow, yeah, they are much more like a SD type of people. Yeah, instead of like a SF. Yeah. Or they went through like UD and SF. Yeah, in this kind of sense. And that's like usually for the ISTJ, but today our focus is the ISFJ. Yeah. So while I'm writing onto it, yeah. So just for you all to know a little bit, yeah. So talking about the compatibility. So basically, the compatibility, the golden pair, which you want to have the most intimacy to receive from, is usually coming from a first shadow function. I mean, first shadow state. Yeah, first shadow state. I should use that word. First shadow state. And even though you have another compatible pair that is coming with like your super ego, but actually you don't want super ego to just take over it. You don't want a super ego people like come together and just become your husband or wife, because basically it will just give you a lot of nightmare, since you already not really agree in terms like your brain functions and everything, like the pattern that you are working onto it, your brain just can't accept each other. So yeah, there's the ISFJ. So let's go through like the function one by one. So first is SI. So basically I already explained introverted sensing. They just go with the discipline. They go with that everything they can sense. So including like whatever they experience in a way, like if they're being touched, they have the feeling that, oh, I'm being insulted, then they are really afraid of being touched. But if they totally like a white paper, yeah, they're like really like loyal onto it. Yeah, at the same time, because of the SI as well, that's why a lot of people calling them the loyal people, like loyalty. Yeah, the loyal. Yeah, it's not lawyer but loyal. Yeah. So SI, firstly, is their hero function. Everything based on sensing, based on experience, what they experience. So ISFJ, ISTJ, ESTJ, and ESFJ, the best thing for them is to keep on exploring. Yeah, you need to bring like they need someone else to bring them to keep on explore. Yeah, explore itself will just open up their heart and like open up their like a point of view and everything, perspective, yeah, everything, yeah, you need to come from here. If not, you're just trying to ask them to use imagination and do everything. Basically, you're making something bad. Yeah. So this is the SI. So next is the FE. So extroverted feeling. So in an easy sense, like different from a TE itself, like an extroverted feeling itself is like a very strong onto like okay, I will go for the hype, or like the vibe that the people around me, what kind of like atmosphere I want to create, what kind of atmosphere I want to reach. Yeah, this kind of like the FE. So in an easy sense. Yeah. So if you see like ISFJ parents when they bring in like their kids going to a funeral, if the kids is running around, they will just really scold onto the kids because the kids is not putting using their words respects onto the people who already passed away. But for those people who don't really care about their kids, yeah, they'll I mean, like for other type of the personality, yeah, some of the type, they'll be much more like, yeah, the kids having fun, or like they are growing up, yeah, they just choose to taking care too much onto their kids, yeah, then it's an issue, yeah. But this the FE, yeah. So if yeah, FE, just a simple tip for you is that if somebody else is happy, you will really feel happy, and it's not fake, like because it is somehow coming from your function. That's how your brain reacts. So if someone is happy, you are happy, yeah. So don't try to feel bad that if I just keep on asking you and saying that, yeah, do you have any feeling, do you have anything you want to share about, then you don't have. Yeah, I just expect I'm not expecting you to have it every time, but it's much more like I just want to make sure you have the chance to speak it out when you need it. Yeah, it's much more onto this way. So next is the ENTP of the subconscious. So basically, subconscious itself is like we say it's the happy state. But a lot of time, a lot of people will just think that, yeah, because it's happy state, so a lot of people want to just stay there, and it's the best way for you to just to stay there. But actually, no, don't ever think that you'll be like totally happy just because you stay at a happy state onto it. No, it's actually not. Like if you just keep on staying at a happy state. So in our biomechanism, basically, you know what is, yeah, basically there's a thing called dopamine, and yeah, a lot of people like misuse like the word dopamine. So basically what dopamine itself is like, you are requiring something, and because of the requirement itself is so rare, so you have the sense of like waiting. Yeah, so dopamine always create because of this. It's not because that it is making you happy. So in a sense, like if you like to eat something and you can get it every day, your dopamine is not making you much more happy. Yeah, it will, the dopamine just decrease because you know that the demand will always meet, unless sometimes it's by chance you can only have it. Then you have the happiness that coming from it. But yeah, this is like a ENTP, the subconscious. So just for a reminder for you, this is like your happy state, but it's not recommend for you to always stay right there. You can access onto it, but don't just keep on staying right there and just want to stay. ENTP. So basically for ISFJ, ENTP itself is much more like a proof onto everything. And basically everything, it means that, okay, my thinking onto some certain people, their reaction, their pattern, what they might do, everything in my control. This is the happy state of it. I know everything about him. I know about everything about him. I know everything about her, and I can just access onto it. I know how to deal with them, and I just sense all my value coming out. I sense that other people is happy. I'm much more happy. And this is the ENTP. Like, so even ISFJ, so the way that they need to gain the happiness is actually extroverted. Yeah, but they need to go back to their ego, yeah, to make them chill down. Yeah, yeah. So basically, how you are going to make yourself much more like going onto the critical part itself is that if you suddenly trigger the sixth function, the critics. So here's the number 5, and here's the number 6, and here I just now already explained about to you is the moral function. So everything with a very high standard of moral, and you're trying to access onto it, you're trying to keep it onto it, you're trying to stay on the ground and saying that yes, this is the moral that I knew, that I learned, and this is correct, and I will never leave it. And basically this ISFJ trying to protect it. And but then when ESFJ start to try to protect, they, instead of like sitting back and do everything, they were just much more onto the sense of like they are trying to perform it. But when I mean that perform, it doesn't mean that they are trying to lie and trying to just put a face and put a mask and they just perform. Some of them they will, but not necessarily every time. But it's much more like because they want to access onto their morality, they will go onto those certain character. They usually will just perform that kind of like morality. Okay, for example, if you just think that okay, me as an elder, I need to like I'm much more someone who is young, but when I was being educated, I was just, like somebody told me so. As a church leader, you are supposed to keep this kind of attitude, that kind of attitude, and when they really become a church leader, they will remember those were really importantly, and they were like, okay, yeah, I need to keep it onto this way. I need to go with this way. I need to go with that way because this is what I remember. This is what I experienced, and I want to recreate that kind of like a situation. So I need to serve it out. So they will just try to imitate onto some certain people. So sometimes you might find a little bit like off from them, like oh who they are imitating, who they are changing to. Yeah, usually it's like someone in their memory. And let's go on to this. Like if they try to protect everything, but the thing what makes them traumatized is that loses everything and they have nothing else to lose anyway. They'll come to the INTJ like a super ego. So basically, INTJ super ego itself, what they are doing, they are start to choose, they are start to criticize as well. But when they start to criticize, they have all the access onto like their memory. So because they have all the access onto the memory, they have everything that they can just say that you are just being lazy, you are being lame, and I choose to say it, and I want you to suffer through it. Yes, you and like just boom, 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 boom. Yeah, if they really reach until that certain level. But usually ISFJ is like a very good like a process thing. Like as you can see, like all the energy it can be accessed with like a subconscious, like extroverted way to express it out, and at the same time with a extroverted sensing right here to let them just perform onto their morality. Usually they are not really like onto that certain type of stress. Yeah, but because of like a lot of like a competition within the ISFJ, the loyal type of people. So that's why for ISFJ still from time to time, you will just hear them, yeah, they are suffering, and that's true. And they are not lying, they are trying to be genuine as well. So, yeah, just for your information onto all this. And, yep, I'll just show you like their like a optimistic function and as well as the pessimistic function itself. So basically, if the introverted sensing is working directly together with the child function, which is the introverted thinking itself, so it will just make them is much more a little bit much more happy. Why? Because it's much more like, okay, this is what I know, this is what I already familiar with, so I can just stay right here. I don't need to change anything, and because I already have all the knowledge, and I can be the king, I can be on the hierarchy itself, and because I'm on onto the hierarchy, so everything I do, it will be correct. Yeah, but usually, like for the ISFJ to know in this way, to be put onto this way, they are much more like they were losing their own commitment somehow. Much more easy getting into a state of like a decomposing because it's much more easy for people to stay depressed in this way. To be honest, yeah, because you are trying to say that, oh yeah, whatever I know in my mind and it just happened right in front of me and everything it just sucks, and it didn't check with the extroverted feeling, that how other people feel, how other people react, how other people is giving credits onto them emotionally. Yeah, and so always for ISFJ, for them to grow, they always need to require them to work out and trying to seek for the extroverted feeling, like the feeling from other people. But usually, like this is the function to accept. So it's much more like that like to accept onto other people's feeling. Yeah, I need to emphasize onto it. So basically, it's like a FI people like giving credits onto it. So if they are doing something good, then the FI type of people, like giving credits onto the FE type of people, and they receive it and they can make it into one of the theory in their mind. But it's much more like their understanding, but it's a little bit hard to explain onto it. So that's why, yeah. Usually, if you're asking ISFJ to explain onto something, basically it's like you need to prepare yourself to listen to a story, because it's like a TR way of like a narrative. It's not like a T type of narrative. T type is much more like going with structure. But you can see right now I'm using much more into my TI type of like a narrative and trying to tell everything. And everything is like connected at the same time. It's like a line, and everything is like crumbled together. I try to make it a little bit systemized, but it's kind of too hard to solve. That's why. Yeah, that's why I'm doing. So okay, NE like a fear. So basically, what is NE fear? So basically NE means extroverted intuition. You know onto some certain people's like patterns. So you know somebody's like reaction, what they like, what they gonna react, what they gonna do. So if somebody suddenly change their behavior, basically it's like a whole, like for them it's like the whole world just suddenly crumble because of their TI also being denied, and like their pattern itself is a little bit like hard to get. Yeah. So basically there's the fear for the ISFJ. But just for you to know, that's pretty interesting, because I did mention about ESFJ. ESFJ is that basically this two is like a optimistic function, and this two is like a pessimistic function. But for ISFJ is different. So for ISFJ, when they try to approach onto other people, usually they have a sense of like, I'm not really comfortable, or like I'm not really confident that I would just know how to interact with other people. But at the same time, because they are always so careful onto it, so usually actually they have a very good relationship with other people around them. Yeah, because they are really careful onto it, and they really know how to smile, to be honest. ISFJ type of people, they smiling really good. Yeah. There's a credit from me. Yeah, but yeah, somehow in a sense, yeah, don't feel bad, and yeah, keep how God just created you in this way. Yeah, so I'll just go on to like the functions itself, like how are we going to talk about them. So basically ISFJ is a guardian. So talking about guardian, they are concrete. Everything onto what I know, what I see, where is my line, did they say anything on it? And they're affiliative, yeah, for sure, they're affiliative, I would say. Yeah, affiliative, in a sense, they are really like depends onto somebody. And that's why people calling them loyal. Yeah, just a reminder. So systematic, yeah, this as well. And how about like their type of like communication? Their communication basically is background. Yeah, instead of like a finisher, they are the background. So what does background mean? So you have a four type of like a communication, right? I already talked about the structure, starter, and as well. I didn't get into finisher yet, but there's a background. So basically, starter and finisher. So someone start and someone end it. And structure itself is trying, because usually starter them, like when they giving all the ideas, is everything is like crumbles all around. Yeah. It just suddenly everything just boom, boom, boom. The ideas just pump, 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 just everything just coming out. And for the structure, they try to make it structurized. They try to make it like so let's make it into a system, and because of the system itself, and we can just make it much more workable. And with this workable frame, finisher will just finish everything that is supposed to be run. So they are also usually those loyal people, and it's much more introverted. And how about the background? Background is those people who are trying to supporting everything, but at the same time, they didn't like have a really like a very sparkling onto them. They are not like, okay, somebody propose this idea, somebody make this into a system, and somebody executed and got a Nobel Prize onto it. Yeah, and usually where's the background? Those who are doing the supporter. But yeah, I mean, like for the type of like a starter like me, yeah, I'm not really happy with that. But a lot of time actually in the society, like a lot of people are really like afraid of like taking risk. And okay, it's a good thing, at the same time not. But it's much more like a balance into it. I'm not saying that it's like a one-sided good or one-sided bad. It's like always like a balance onto it. And because of the ISFJ, like that, this kind of like a background type of people is supporting everything. So that's why like for the background itself. Yeah. So for the ISFJ, usually is much more like a type of people who is much more easy to be ignored, but at the same time they are really persistent. Yeah, I never say the background are weak, but just that they are not on the spotlight. Yeah, in a sense. So yeah, basically in this kind of way you can understand it. Yeah, so basically for background, they're informative. Yeah, they'll just remember whatever that they can remember as much as they could, and they are responding. Yeah, basically they can receive everything from a structure, from a starter, at the same time maybe a finisher as well, and they are on control. Yeah, so they don't really just change other people's word. Yeah, they are much more like, yeah, I stay there. So yeah, basically that's the ISFJ. Yeah, there's everything for today, and hope you all just enjoy it, and yeah, hope to see you all in my next video. Peace out.